All right, let's turn our focus to this now. U.S. President Joe Biden has confirmed that a ceasefire deal between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah had been achieved after approval was given by Israel's war cabinet. The ceasefire was due to go into effect at 4 a.m. local time on Wednesday morning and is expected to end fighting in southern Lebanon and across Israel's northern border. Adherence to the agreement is expected to be monitored by an international committee of 5 nations, including France, and chaired by the United States. Professor Christopher Isike, Director of the African Center for the Study of the United States, University of Pretoria, joins us now. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. So what we understand at this moment is that U.S. President Joe Biden told reporters that the agreement was designed to be a permanent ceasefire. We also told the next 60 days will be, crucial in a number of ways and number of steps that will be taken, especially as some of the Hezbollah army members are going to then be replaced by Lebanese army. What are we likely to see in the next few days and even months? And more importantly, is a permanent setup feasible?
Thank you for having me. Well, yeah, it depends. You will recall that Hezbollah were not involved in any direct talks with U.S. or France or any of these nations that are brokering this peace. In the ceasefire, they were represented by the Lebanese government. So that can be a problem. But secondly, it will be difficult to have the Lebanese army, standing in place of Hezbollah, not just in terms of the ceasefire agreement, but also in ensuring peaceful relations with Israel as the ceasefire terms dictate. Hezbollah is a very, very equipped, if you like, a military group or rebel group, as you call it, in terms of its relations with the state of Lebanon. So it is going to, the kind of relationship that evolves between the Hezbollah and the states of Lebanon would determine how durable this ceasefire would be and whether it would be, a permanent ceasefire that would then see to the rebuilding of Lebanon or not.
Prof, before we continue, perhaps just a step back, perhaps tell us what you can about the UN Security Council resolution of 1701, which ended the 2006 war between Israel and Hezbollah, we told. I mean, could this current agreement and this situation be an adaptation of this particular agreement that was set at that time?
Yes, it can be, but like I said, it depends on how the relations between the Hezbollah and the state of Lebanon will work out. Because if Hezbollah doesn't subject itself to the government and military of Lebanon, they can continue to bicker with them and then eventually overpower them because of the legitimacy problems that the state has. And it's the same problem that Hamas has with the Palestinian government in Gaza, for example. So these questions of legitimacy of state institutions as against armed movements or rebel groups or terrorist organizations as they are labeled by the West, this tension impact on whatever agreements that have been put in place by international structures such as the United Nations Security Council and the resolution that you're talking about.
What does this all mean for what is currently happening between Israel and Hamas? Where does that then place Gaza and the continuous bombardment there?
And this is one of the real problems of this ceasefire in the sense that it does not speak to the conflict in Gaza at all. Biden did pledge to make another push with Turkey and Egypt and Qatar and Israel to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. But I don't think that will be, that's the likelihood of that happening before his term ends in January is slim. And with Trump coming in, I can tell you that Israel also kind of continue the bombardment, delayed the concessions agreement with the, reaching an agreement because they wanted the Biden administration to end, and then for the Trump administration to take over, because the Israelis believe for some reason that a Trump administration would favor them more. So I think that Netanyahu would push for this conflict to go well into the early next year, so that it will be up to Mr. Trump to resolve. But it is sad that the Biden administration pushed for a ceasefire in Lebanon, especially south of Lebanon, with Hezbollah, without necessarily doing the same, for the conflict in Gaza. Remembering also that just a few days ago, the U.S. vetoed a United Nations Security Council vote to call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. So these are some of the internal contradictions and challenges that emerge from this particular ceasefire, which many have embraced, especially in Lebanon.
And it's because of that you still find a number of, particularly the displaced Israelis, who are still frustrated by Prime Minister Netanyahu, and also there's a lot of distrust there. What does this then all mean for Netanyahu from a domestic perspective in as far as his leadership is concerned? Because we know, of course, even during this conflict with Gaza, there's always been that question mark remaining around his tenure and his leadership.
Well, many have argued that he has continued this war precisely to improve his popularity and legitimacy in Israel. There may be some truth to that, but there are many people in Israel who now support him strongly, much more than they did initially when the war started, because of the way that he has, prosecuted it in taking it to Hezbollah in Lebanon, and even exchanging with Iraq, attacking the Houthis and Syria. So he's quite popular. I mean, you saw how many Israelis responded to his indictment, the warrant, and the issuing of the warrant of arrest by the International Criminal Court. The people of Israel are firmly behind him. So, but there are those, of course, especially families of those who were held hostage. They are not happy with the fact that there has not been a release of hostages. The government has not done anything to on that front. And then there's the question of those settlers that have been pushed out from the north of Israel because of frequent bombardment from Hezbollah. And maybe that's the incentive he had for pushing for this ceasefire to happen at this point, because like Biden said, it allows for those who have been displaced on both sides, both on the Israeli side and on the Lebanese side, to go back home.
Prof, thank you so much for that analysis and, of course, for availing yourself for this interview. Professor Christopher Isike is the director of the African Center for the Study of the United States at the University of Pretoria. Of course, just weighing in on this ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, of course, raising quite concerns, at least Israel and Hezbollah, raising concerns about the ceasefire that is so needed by the people in Gaza. But, of course, we'll continue to monitor those developments.